First, I call the meeting to order. Could we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Adler?
Here.
Commissioner Peterson? Absent. Vice Chair Jamison?
Here.
Chair Williams?
Here. I'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Joni, would you lead us, please?
There's one thing you have to understand. When we say it, it's one nation under God. There's no comma. Okay? Please. Okay. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Tony, that really took concentration.
Yeah. Okay,
Where does that go?
so next up is approving the order of the agenda. Does anybody want to pull anything or
No, it looks good to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
change the way we go?
I'm good.
Okay, could I get a motion
I so move.
I'll second.
moved and seconded? We'll now open up to public comment. Public comment is for items not on the agenda or are on the consent agenda. I have just one speaker slip, Denise Amin.
Hi, my name is Denise Elamine, and I'm coming today just to talk to the Planning Commission regarding some issues with some of the permits that are being allowed and not allowed to proceed in Solvang. The last time I talked about the property that sits on Alisal and 246. Since that time, there is graffiti written on the walls out there, and the grass is overgrown. And I am wondering how it is that we have a planning commission, and some properties are allowed to not obey, and other properties are, they have to obey more. And I don't feel that it's right. If we have a property here in the city of Solvang, and this one is in the middle, it's really given a bad look to Solvang. And I have never seen any graffiti in Solvang, and I've been living here for 9 years. And I'm pretty sure the Planning Commission and the City Council have noticed this if you've gone into Solvang off of Alisal and 246. So I'm here pleading to the Planning Commission that you guys put this at the top of your priority list and try to work something out to where we don't have graffiti in the city of Solvang. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? That's the only speaker slip I had. Okay. Any ex parte communications that you'd like to report on? Items on the agenda? Okay, then we'll move on to public hearings. Could we have staff report on item 5A, please?
Sorry, y'all, just taking notes. Yes, so tonight for this public hearing item, we're asking you to consider Planning Commission Resolution 2303, approving the development plan with modifications for the front yard setback and parking for the multifamily project at 425th Street, and make a determination of exemption under the California Environmental Quality Act. This project was brought before you at your last meeting on April 3rd. There were several concerns about the project, both from y'all and from the public, and so we continued the item for a date to be determined. We were able to work with the applicant on some of the parking concerns and other questions, and so we were able to bring it back to this meeting. The concerns included things such as height, and the wall along the property, what the detail for that wall was. As indicated in the staff report, the applicant was planning for it to be stucco, but is open to whatever the planning commission would like. And then there were also concerns about parking and traffic, including whether there was sufficient parking, whether the parking was maneuverable, and the added traffic and impact to the street parking caused by the 6-unit project. There was also concerns about the parking lot configuration that requires the cars to back out of the parking lot, even though in the code, residential projects are allowed to have cars back out of the driveway. We did work with the applicant, who's here via Zoom, on several parking configurations that are included in the packet. There are 5 different options. Option 1 is to remove a guest parking space to create a backup zone. Option 2, this will require an additional modification for the parking requirements to allow 9 spaces instead of the required 10. Option 2 is to keep the proposed parking configuration from the April 3rd meeting. Option 3 would be to create a backup zone by removing the trash enclosure, bicycle enclosure, and reducing the size of Unit 2. Option 4 is to decrease the front yard setback to 10 feet and increase the width of the parking lot by 5 feet. So this would also require a modification to the landscaping open space requirement. And then option 5 is to place all the parking under the building, which it's option 5 for a reason, because it would make the building 43 feet, which is above what is required in the code. And there are already concerns about height, so I can't imagine that being a viable option. As I mentioned, the applicant's here to speak with you about any questions, and I'm happy to answer whatever questions I can now.
Any questions of staff report?
Actually, an off-topic question, that is, did we miss consent items number 3, approving the minutes?
We approved the consent items as.
As a group, okay, great, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So, no questions, staff report. Would the agent or the owner care to speak on this before we?
Avi, we're going to unmute you.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, hello. I'm Avi. I'm the designer for the project. I'd like to start first by apologizing for last time. I was out of the country on the other side of the world in a very different time zone on a family matter, so I was unable to participate. But I'm here today to answer any of your questions, and I worked with Sophia and presented a few options for the concern on the parking. And if you'd like, we can go over them and discuss.
I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. You ranked them 1, 2, 3, 4. Could you maybe summarize for us your reasoning on that ranking?
If we start from what Sophia described as option number 5, which is the last one, which is raising the height of the building, it was suggested, but I don't really think it's a go at all. It's going to make it even higher than what you're allowing. Changing the project altogether, I don't believe it's a go at all. The first option that we are suggesting is the one that require us to do as little changes as needed. I heard what was said last time about the concern of the parking being too tight, and specifically the concern about backing out of the driver, which is true. It's correct. So in both options 1 and 3, I'm addressing this. Option one would be to eliminate the guest parking altogether. So now we have 10 parking required, and it's going to be 9. So 2 for each one of the 2 bedrooms, 1 for the 1 bedroom, and no parking for the ADU. When I do this, I was able to, once I removed 1 parking, I'm able to create a backup area, which you can see it hatched on the drawing. And then basically nobody needs to back out of the parking. It's only going front. You can turn inside the lot itself. But that requires eliminating the guest parking. I'm also suggesting, which is, I believe, option 3. Let me just double check myself. Option 3. Yes, in option 3, it's option 2. I'm keeping all the required 10 parking lots, but I did some changes in one of the units, in unit 2. I had to take some of the square footage from it and play around with the layout, and then I was able to move 1 parking space to where in the previous design the enclosure for the garbage was, and I'm still able to create a backup space for all the cars to live facing the front. It requires changes on our side, but it doesn't change the density. It only means that 1 unit is going to be slightly smaller. There is option number 3.
Avi, you have a question.
Yes.
Just want to point out what you just described was option 3, not option 2.
Avi, I renumbered them based off of our conversation earlier in the week.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So
Okay.
Option 2 is the original plan, as I understand it, with no changes. Is that correct?
Yes. That's what's listed in the staff report as preference, Avi.
okay. It's
Yeah.
not that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So as long as we're talking about the same one. So option 3 in that case is the one where I reduce the size of unit 2 in order to create an area for backing up. And then there is the option which is reducing the front setback to even further to 10 feet. It gives me more space in the back. That's true, but I'm not sure that it helps me with backing out of the not backing out of the property. So I'm not sure how you're going to consider this one. I don't know. It's up for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Why don't we move on to public comment at this point? And I have 2 speaker slips. Linda Rasmussen.
My name is Linda Rasmussen. I live at 1510 Oak Street, directly across from the proposed apartment. I have several questions. I don't know if you can answer them, but at least think about them. How, when, and why did this single-family plot of land suddenly become a multi-family piece of land that will allow a 3-story building to house 6 units with 10 bedrooms, a house that had maybe 4 to 6 people, and now you're having an apartment with a potential of 20 people? That just blows my mind, okay?
I think that should be answered now.
Also,
I think you should answer her question.
So, Commissioner Jameson, I think we should let the speaker continue her comments because she only has 3 minutes.
She may be building her comment, but I would stop the clock. She may be building her comments on this assumption that she has.
Okay, at the discretion of the chair, if you'd like to pause or let her continue her comment.
I think let her continue and we'll discuss
I'll
it.
continue, that's fine.
Okay.
It's something to think about, okay? Is there a limit to number of people that can be on any one piece of property? That's another one of my questions. Also, my next question, you're saying that this height is going to be 34 feet. Is that from Fifth Street or from Oak Street? And if you're familiar with the property, it's on a slant. And Oak Street is lower than the Fifth Street elevation, which means from my property, I'm going to be looking at a lot higher than 34 feet. Okay? Now, the other thing is we're talking 10 bedrooms, 20 people, all taking showers, not paying the water bill, probably taking 20-minute showers. And we know what the water situation and the sewer situation is in Solvang. Okay, enough said. Also, we're talking potential 20 cars. The gentleman said he's got 9 or 10 parking spaces. That puts 10 cars out on the street. And there is not 10 available parking spaces out on Oak Street. Fifth Street is already jammed. It's a very narrow street, and there's no additional parking. As you may know, that's the busiest corner in town. It's the main corner for the fire department access to get to the freeway, the highway. I'm used to LA, sorry.
Thank you, Linda. Let's continue with, and then we can bring up the other stuff.
Okay.
Okay, second speaker slip is Denise Alamin.
Hi, my name is Denise Elamine, and I'm here talking about the 420 Fifth Street property also. And my question is the same. Who is the owner? We have the planner here, and no one has ever said anything about who owns this property. And it makes a big difference in the city of Solvang when we have so many people who own so many properties. And I don't know why the owner's name is being kept out of this. And I would like to know, too, why this particular property on this particular corner gets to get all of these considerations. On his option 1, I was here last week, and I heard all of the problems about the backing up because the spaces are too tight. But I thought that the state required 10 spaces. So I guess if he's asking for 9, then he's asking you guys to go against what the state mandate is, and you're not going to allow an ADU there, which he's calling it a guest parking, but I think the state calls it an ADU, and he's asking you to eliminate that. And one of his other option is he's asking, I think the zoning is 20 feet back from the street, and he's asked, and you guys did, you calculated and you said the average was 15, and now with his option 4, he's asking for 10 feet setback, so now he's going back 10 feet. And on his other option, he's going to remove the trash, the bicycle and reduce the size of unit 2. So where's the trash going? I'm wondering, why have we taken so long and so many meetings for this? And I think we were told last week by the staff that we couldn't have one more meeting and then it would go and it would be approved if you guys have one more meeting. So this is a property that I don't understand why it's getting so much attention. It's a very, very small space, and you guys are putting a lot of property, a lot of people there who will drink water and who will flush toilets, and I don't know why on this small land. And I would like to know why, or who's the owner and why they're getting preferential treatment. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else, anybody online that would like to speak? In the audience?
Thank you. Good evening. Name's William Harrigan. I'm a resident of Solvang for 23 years. And my main concern is this safety hazard. Basically, for all emergency vehicles, school buses that come up and down there. We have tractor trailers that come around Fifth Street and access to Oak Street. We have school buses, like I said. It's such a busy intersection there. And it's going to create a complete hazard, safety hazard. Many school children come out from elementary school and come down Fifth, down Oak Street, and use those apartments there that are already there. And it's just going to create a major safety hazard. That's my concern. I'd really like you to consider it. I'm not opposed to having anything built there per se, but single family, maybe just a 2 different condos there would be probably the maximum, would be my concern for the area. So just really consider it, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, in that case, we'll bring it back to the commission for discussion. Just a couple things that were brought up. The name of the owner is in the agenda packet under attachment C. I don't know if we need to go into zoning laws right now, but it is zoned for DR20, which allows for up to 20 units per acre, which is how we're able to have, how this applicant is able to have as many units as he does. On the height, I thought that was a good question. I'm not sure where the height is measured from. Can staff help us with that?
Sorry. Sorry. I believe height is measured from the grade of the property, from what I understand in the code.
But what grade?
Yes, so
Avi will answer.
the 35 feet is from the corner of the building, the corner of Fifth and Oak,
Okay.
which is the lower part of the building over there.
And to clarify, the building is shorter than 35 feet, so it's 34 and 10 inches.
Right, right. But, you know, the question was, where's it measured from? So it's measured from the lowest point of the graded property, is that what I understand?
The natural grade.
So not from the road or anything, but the actual within the property line itself.
Yes.
So it's gonna be 6 feet high from Oak Street. Thank you very much.
No, just the opposite.
Okay, so I thought those were worthwhile things addressing. Does anybody else have any issues that they want to bring up?
I mean, as you know from our last meeting, I do have issues with the project, but unfortunately, I feel our hands are tied. I'm not willing to vote on any of the options that reduce parking, because parking is such a problem. Avi, I mean, I just have to say, I know you're within your rights to design this building the way it is. I know the property owner is within her rights to have this. I hate the project. I hate the project because it's 3 stories, and it's going to now open a can of worms for other developers to take a look at single-family residences along Oak and create 3-story buildings there. And the 3 stories is a huge problem for me. The parking issue is a huge problem for me because, again, having 10 parking spaces is great, but you need quite a few more for that property, and I'm not sure where they're going to park. That said, the only option that I can see that's viable to me is option number 3, because it does not take away from the parking. There's still 10 parking spaces, and it allows some backup room.
Okay, thank you. Joni?
Well, I think you all know how I feel about the project. It's a nice project someplace else. It's, but that's not our choice. That's not one of our choices. We have to abide by the rules and regs of the city of Solvang. And it meets those, and they've tried to push as far as they can to get what they want, and now we're asking them to move back a little bit, especially with the parking. I'm not in favor of the project, but I don't have a way to vote against it.
Okay. Just a question on the parking, or on the safety issue or what have you. As was explained at our last meeting, in order to object on grounds of safety or parking, there has to be some objective criteria that we say is being violated. And I believe, and you can help me, Chelsea, that criteria has to be written into our regulations. And as far as I know, we don't have any objective criteria. In other words, like for safety and the number of cars, there's nothing in the regulations that specify a minimum or maximum number of cars at any particular period of time. Am I correct in that?
Yes.
So in order to object on those grounds, there'd have to be some absolute number that has previously been put into the regulation. Is that correct?
Yes. So under state law, because this is a housing project, under state law, the Planning Commission, based on what the rules apply to this project, and there's a lot of different government code sections that I won't go into, but the Planning Commission can only deny the project if it makes a specific finding that there's a specific adverse impact, but that is defined as a significant, quantifiable, so numbers, direct and unavoidable impact based on objective, identified, written public health or safety standards that are in existence on the date the application was deemed complete. And we don't have any such standards that would apply to this project that would meet that. That would be an objective written standard for public health or safety that would apply to the parking for this project. You know, our parking requirements are the number of spaces that they have to have, which, you know, we've talked about that, but that's not a public health or safety standard that's in our regulations. And again, we couldn't, you know, go and add one now because it has to be as of the date the application was deemed complete.
So that might be something we want to consider for the future, to put in more objective and quantifiable numbers into our regulations.
That is a big pending project that Chelsea and I have a pin in, because we need to create objective design standards as well. So it's going to be a big project we'll be taking on.
And, you know, as we're getting through the general plan update process, you know, once we get that, the next step is to amend the zoning code to comply with the general plan. And so there is an opportunity coming up for the city to look at that more holistically. I mean, this, you know, we're seeing how it would help in a particular project, but that would be a very holistic approach to the code.
Okay. And I have one other question on the fire department amendment. They came up with some pretty specific things on, height and distance. And I don't know if they actually measured that, but is there any reason to believe that we don't, or this project won't meet those requirements?
I do know that the fire department reviewed the plans and then created the condition letter based off of that. So, yeah, I can't say, I don't think it should be an issue since they've already been reviewing everything. And that brings up an important point. I identified it with the attachment that was that email, which is I caught an error in the letter that they provided. And they have two conditions that conflict with each other. So they want the access according to the plans that were dated on a specific date. And then later on in the document talks about how the access needs to be at least 16 feet. And I clarified with him, and he said that shouldn't be an issue because all access by the fire department will be taken from the street. So I wanted to clarify that, and we do need to clarify that in the motion.
Okay. And then I just have a couple other things that I noticed as usual.
Sit
With-
back. It's going to be a while.
Yeah. With respect to the parking spaces, on page 19, it says 9 parking spaces.
I did not update that because I was pending this meeting.
Okay, and on the original drawing that we had from the last meeting, it also says 9 parking spaces, even though it shows 10.
Yes.
And the only place it actually, in Exhibit A on conditions of approval, it says 9 parking spaces. And the only place I found, where was it? It was on page 37. It actually says that the requirement is 10 parking spaces, and then the applicant is providing 10 parking spaces, and breaks down how that was arrived at. But I just like consistency, as I've said before, so.
I always appreciate your attention for detail.
And I would also agree with my fellow commission members that I don't think option 2 is something we should was it option 2? Or option 1 is something we should consider. And I think option 3 is probably the best way to go in order to get adequate space for turnaround and to address one of the things that was brought up in looking at the option 2 drawing. They didn't eliminate the trash containers, they just moved them.
Moved them, yeah.
Right.
And the same with the bicycle parking. So I think that's the one that best satisfies
I agree.
our major objection at the last meeting was turning around. And I might suggest that maybe just to be additionally, what's the word I want to use? Yeah, it might be better, in addition to the parking, if we could have them put up a sign at the exit that says no backing onto the roadway. And I don't know if that's something the applicant would have to do, or if that's something the city would have to do. But I think it just might be an additional reminder to the people going in and out of there that backing out is not allowed.
Yes.
So it sounds like you can add that as a condition.
Okay.
It's going to be hard to enforce.
Yeah,
Right.
but, I mean, just the sign there might,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
yeah, it might be impossible to enforce, but at least it's another reminder.
Yes.
It could be a reminder sign like in Los Alamos. If you walked along Bell, they have the like, leave your emotional baggage in the car. It could be, please don't back out into a very busy street. Thank you.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, so can I get a motion on,
Can I make one more comment before that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just to address the gentleman in the back who asked about the building in terms of a safety issue. I did ask Sophia to reach out to the fire department specifically on whether the front setback and allowing that 5-foot encroachment on the front setback would affect their vision or safety or anything else from the fire department. And their reply was they looked at that and they do not have a problem with it.
I have a follow-up question, if I may. Is it possible? I know it's a quick question.
yeah, go ahead. What is your question?
Well, I'm concerned that there should be, because you're gonna go ahead and go through it. You can see that's what's gonna happen. So, I mean, crosswalks with maybe a potential light there for crosswalking, that should be an option there for coming across Fifth Street to Oak Street. On both ways, there should be a lighted crosswalk like they do on Mission, has one there. That would really help the issue there. with
Okay, well, that's interesting that something else, I wasn't going to suggest that specifically, but are there any things that the city can do to help make this better? Safer, like making parking along that curb painted red, or making Second Street one-way westbound. And that's just a couple of ideas, and he threw out a couple more. Are the things that we as the city, not the applicant, can do to help a situation that people have brought up?
Certainly that making modifications to the street right-of-way and the curb would be within the council's discretion. That would be something staff would have to get direction on from council, and I would say it was outside of the scope of the approval for tonight. But yes, the city can make such changes if it wants to. So, it wouldn't be a condition of this project because the applicant can't implement something like that. But you could separately, try to bring that to the city council for direction, or, talk to the city manager about that as a potential option. Yeah, speaking of, he's here. So, that's policy direction. That's where I step back, but, yes, it's within the city's power.
That's something we could discuss outside of this agenda item.
Yes.
Okay, could I get a
Then,
motion to
I-
do something?
yeah, I would motion to approve the project at 425th Street, allow the front yard setback of 15 feet, allow the encroachment on the side yard for parking, and mandate option 3 be used by the owner and designer.
And also that the access be according to the plans. Hold on, let me find this info
Right.
from the fire
Yeah,
department.
the 16-foot,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, well, it's 12 foot, right?
12-foot now,
Yeah.
From the plans dated March 27, 2023, and approved by the fire department on April 5th, 2023.
okay.
And that was the 12-foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing you all discussed was a sign prohibiting
Oh, yeah.
backing out. So if you want to add those 2 items to the motion as well,
Right.
if you wish.
And the environmental impact. Do you want-
Right, and right, exactly, and the exemption from the California Environmental Quality Act, and requiring the owner to put a sign in the parking lot requiring no backing onto Oak Street.
Okay, is that sufficient? You've got all that?
You did a great job
I don't know about that, but
with the
I
motion.
tried.
Okay, so can I get a second?
Begrudgingly, I'll second it.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Nobody opposed, passes 3-0. Okay, so now moving on to item, was it 5B, I guess? If I can find it.
Bye, Avi.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Avi.
Yes. Agenda item 5B, could we have the staff report, please?
So currently, our municipal code is out of alignment with state law. You're going to hear me say this a lot. It's going to get old. So basically, right now, our municipal code requires a major conditional use permit for all solar energy systems, and then also for solar energy systems in the tourist-related commercial or TRC zone, they're required to go before the design review committee. This issue came up because there was a project in the TRC that wanted to install a solar energy system, and the building official flagged it as, our code not being in alignment with state law. Essentially, we cannot have a discretionary process for solar energy systems. The only way that we can not approve them is if they pose a specific adverse impact to the city's public health or safety. And so we are proposing a change to the municipal code to reflect state law. And that is what you have before you, and we recommend we recommend that you recommend to the city council that they adopt the new language in the municipal code. And I'm here for any questions.
Any questions? No. Any public comment on this item? None, we'll bring it back. Any
I have no issue.
Me either.
I have a question, and it's not a nit. So this completely replaces that section, so we can no longer take into consideration the Danish motif of the town when it comes to putting solar panels on roofs anywhere in the city, not
Yes.
just the TRC, right? This applies to everywhere, not just the
Yes,
TRC.
so there would be like no special design criteria for solar energy systems in the specific districts that we're talking about for the general plan update. And aesthetics is not a reason to not approve the solar energy systems. We had a whole conversation with this project. Yeah.
So, no questions from audience, no questions online. We don't really have a choice here, do we, again?
So because it is state law, I mean, basically this is helping it be less confusing for people because the state law overrides the city's code already, but, you know, people come in and are confused and it's harder for staff to administer when our code is in conflict with the state standards. So at this point, this sort of is already the rules of the road, but we're making it so our code reflects that, and it's more upfront in what rules apply.
Okay. Can I get a motion?
I can try to, let's see if I get this one right, okay? I will move that the Planning Commission adopt resolution number 23-04, recommending the City Council adopt an ordinance amending Title 11 of the Solvang Municipal Code to conform solar energy system permitting requirements to state law and make a determination of exemption under the California Environmental Quality Act.
I second that motion.
Ooh, right on.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0.
Keith, you did exactly what we want with how we write the subjects, which it's intended for y'all to be able to use it for your motion unless things change. So that was
Thank you.
great.
I can learn.
Okay, I've lost my agenda items. Too much paper. So, are there any, I'm trying to remember what was next on the agenda.
Number 6.
Discussion items.
Yes, discussion items. Are there any discussion items that we need to talk about? Do we want to?
This is different than staff and commissioner comments.
What would constitute a discussion item?
In December when we brought to you all discussion to file and receive the general plan for comments at a future date,
okay.
that would be a discussion item. So we didn't have to notice
So
it.
there's nothing on the agenda to discuss?
Yes, sir.
So we can move on?
Yeah.
I do have a question, though.
Yes.
Where are we with the general plan?
I can talk about that in my comments.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so any planning commissioner comments?
Actually, the only thing I wanted to discuss, and I'm not sure what our powers are, Mr. Chairman, but it's my belief that the 35-foot zoning limit in the downtown area was in order to have 2-story buildings with steep Danish-style roofs. And that might have been the intention, but now obviously it's going to be used for 3-story buildings. And I would like to see if we can add something to our agenda where we resolve to ask the city council to change that zoning to reflect that it's for 2-story buildings only. What do you think, Chelsea?
we can take that direction if that's what the commission would like to direct staff to investigate.
Can I talk? Oh,
Yes.
I wonder how this rolls into the general plan update, because there have been conversations about height, and
Right.
I'll go more into the housing element in the general plan at staff comments.
Okay. And then my only other comment was in regard to Miss Alameen and that property on the corner of Mission and Alisal, which is becoming a bit of an eyesore, and I don't know if that's something that your department can get back to the owner.
It's on my list to follow up.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Joni, anything else? Okay,
She's going to tell us about the general plan.
yeah. That, under the staff comments.
Frantically writing notes. Is it staff comments now?
Yes.
Okay.
let's move to
So-
staff comments.
I have a bunch of stuff. So first of all, I want to introduce everyone to Randy Murphy, our new city manager. He started on Friday. He's learning a lot. We're all here to support him. Looking forward to working with him and teaching him everything we've learned in my 2 years here. And then on that note, on Wednesday, there's a welcome reception at 11 a.m. in council chambers. The public is welcome, so that's why I'm announcing it here for anyone who wants to come. There is a vacancy on the Planning Commission. Member Rodriguez resigned. We have a staff report that will go before the council at their next meeting on May 8th to talk about the process for filling the vacancy. So stay tuned. We encourage public comment as a citizen, not as a commissioner, or can they as a commissioner?
They can comment. Yeah, just if you comment as yourself or as a commissioner, just make sure you're clear about you're speaking your opinions, not the body's opinion.
Yep, there we go. I wanted to make sure that was flagged.
And don't talk about commission business together.
You're saying if we speak at the city council meeting?
Yes, sir. Or provide written, because you can speak in person or on Zoom, or you can submit written comment. Just make sure that you're speaking on, this is not on behalf of the Planning Commission. So that the agenda packet for that will be released, I believe, on Wednesday. I will follow up with the owner of the vacant lot at 1704 Mission, and then about the graffiti at 1714 Mission. We're starting to see progress on that project as they submitted the interior plans for that. So I'm looking forward to that moving forward as well. A note, parking has come up a lot. So Denise asked about it at last meeting and came in and spoke with me and provided comment. It came up again today. I believe this section of the code is from the 1990s. So as I've mentioned, Chelsea and I have a very thick folder online of things that need to be cleaned up in the code. And so that's one of them, just to look at whether our parking requirements are current, and then also how that aligns with state law that, as you know, is increasingly reducing parking requirements. So that'll be another big project. With the general plan, we did receive all of the elements back from them 2 weeks ago. Lori's moving through it, then I'm going to read it. We are going to be planning a general plan advisory committee sometime in May or June. We'll be meeting with Randy this week to bring him up to speed about everything that's happened. So we don't want to schedule a meeting until that has happened, but y'all will hear about that, Joni, you and Aaron. And then the housing element is still at HCD. We haven't gotten comments back, and we will address that when they come. They are, from what I've read a few comment letters from other jurisdictions, and they're really pushing back on people. So it'll be really interesting to see what they tell us, especially because we, kept a lower floor area ratio. We're keeping our height, so we'll see what they say. I think that's it. Oh, next meeting, sorry. And then next meeting, if I can get my stuff together, the owner of Surrey Cycles would like to revisit his conditional use permit. So I need to review that and make amendments and bring it before you. And that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. We are adjourned at 6:45. 6:45.